another show of Reseller Evolution. My name's Scott, and I'm here with
Carl.
Hey, Carl. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going well. It's been exciting week. Sales are definitely up for the last little oomph of Q4.
Oh,
How
nice.
about you?
Yeah, no, I experienced the same thing. Everything's been going well. We're in the first couple of weeks of 2024 here. We do a show every Friday for anyone new
Yeah.
here, so we do upload a new show every Friday. And so since last Friday, Carl, what have you been up to? What's going on?
Well, I've been social. I went out for breakfast with the person who Christian runs the Nostalgia Warehouse here in Ottawa, where I have my booth. So it was fun. Just it's nice to have that social aspect and not always just the selling aspect. I also another thrifter friend of mine had given me a Starbucks mug ages ago, and it sold for I think 400 American, something crazy like that.
Crazy.
And yeah, crazy. So he said, "Oh, he just gave it to me," but I said, "Well, I'm gonna pay him." And I think it took a year to sell the mug. I'm pretty greedy, and so I met up with him yesterday, and he didn't expect it, but I paid him his half. So he was pretty happy to get a surprise, like $200 in cash.
Wow,
He was
nice.
pretty tickled pink about that because he wasn't really expecting and forgotten about it. So that was kind of fun. It's nice to share. I have found the people I go thrifting with are so nice. I've been given things often, and it
Well,
feels good.
it feels good. And I have a similar story I'll share in a second here, but a lot of people give resellers a bad rap, at least on YouTube. If you watch YouTubers, and I know there's trolls out there and they're just trying to get people. But
Yeah.
you know what? Resellers have, the one goal, and that is to make a profit. And the other goal is to find good stuff. Or
Yeah.
you can reverse them if you want. Now, we don't know everything. And sometimes there's nice surprises in lots and stuff like that. And sometimes the market changes, not everything sells. People don't understand that. Just because you list something for $100 that you paid for bought it for $1 doesn't mean it's going to sell. Doesn't mean it's going to sell for $100. And
No.
and then there's a lot of times you buy something for $20, so you got more into it, and it doesn't sell or it breaks. So there's a lot of things there. But I find resellers on the whole, and I'm not saying everyone. There's always the bad apples out there. But I find they're actually very generous people. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
I say 80% are. Yeah.
yeah,
That 20% really stings you, unfortunately. But we try to remember the positive if you can. Every
yeah,
negative thing seems to be overwhelming in our minds, but really, most people are great.
yeah. And like for instance, if someone sends me to a private pick, somebody recommended me, I always look after that person. First
Yeah.
of all, it's a business thing for sure. Because I don't need to do. They're not expecting it. They're going to keep, you know, uh, as long as I keep my reputation as being a nice person and not being a jerk to people,
Hmm.
they're going to keep recommending me. But I will get them gift cards or whatever. The other day, one of my mentors, he set me up with private picks. He was very nice. Came in and really admired a sign. Now, this sign would probably be $100 sign if it was in better condition, but it was a little bit faded from sun and it had some rust spots on it. So I put a $35, which is a really good price. It could have been a little bit more, but it's definitely not going to be your top dollar. He came in and admired it, and I give it to him for free. You know what I mean? But he
Yeah.
done so much for me in the past. You know, I owe him 1,000 of those signs. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
100%.
but the gestures are there back and forth.
Yeah.
If there's something I'm looking at buying and they had a good deal on it, they're going to give me a way reduced price, and I'll do the same. So I'm glad to hear that situation, Carl, because I think that's my experience with resellers, especially in the antique market. And it's nice to hear those stories because resellers in some cases do get a bad rap.
Oh, yeah. Connections are really important. I think it can be difficult with competition. Like, with that buddy I saw as we went into the store, when the store opened, we just, went, okay, well, now we're frenemies because now the competition comes in, every person for themselves. And that's part of it too. That can be really hard balance to do,
Yeah.
especially when you're at an auction or you're at a thrift store or garage sales. And there's that friendly competition, and you try to make fun of it and not go beyond.
Yeah.
And if something happens, try to forgive and forget, because what you don't want is those old grudges like you hear about. Sometimes you hear resellers something happened like 10 years ago, and they've lost so many, you know, enjoyment and opportunities and stress just from silly little things. But hey, I guess that's life too.
Yeah,
But
I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on this show, probably, but I definitely said it on my other shows, and I just say it in general conversation. I view picking a lot like poker. So you got that competitive
right,
side. You're sitting at the table, but you're still having a beer and laughing and joking around with the guys you're sitting with. But your competition is, hey, dude, I'm coming after your money,
that's
right?
right,
So
that's right.
because it's just a way of identifying a winner, I guess, or whether you personally won or lost, it's based on that. But at the same time, guys are buying other guys' beers or coffees or whatever. If it's at the casino, you're buying other people drinks and different things like that. So, yeah, and I find reselling in a lot of ways, as far as the drive, the next score, the next item, and the
Right.
people that you're around, as being a lot similar to poker.
Did you have any sales that stood out in the last week for you,
Uh,
online or in the booth?
I well, I've been very busy because I started my third booth January 1st,
Right.
and well, actually second, because I guess first of the holiday. So I've been busy with that. So my mind is really not so much on what I sold, but I did sell quite a bit. I had one eBay day where there was 10 items that went out, which is big for me. I guess a couple of them were Etsy, but right for eBay. Any big sales that stood out, not in the same area as your $400 mug. Nothing stood out like that. Probably all within around the 160 to $120 range.
Well, that's a great range to me. Like my
Yeah,
average sale must be a lot lower than that.
yeah, I did pick up a poker table for $250. Guy sold his house for $1 million,
Yeah.
and he paid $3,000 for it. And I bought two tables. One we're keeping here. It's a nice little. It's a coffee table, but it opens up and you can put stuff inside of it with a glass top, and it's a display table.
Okay.
Um, Almost looks like a display cabinet, but it's built into a coffee table.
Hmm.
And the poker table, $500, $250 a piece. And I have the poker table at the booth right now for $1,250. So I'm hoping that goes soon. That's a
Yeah.
$1,000 score. But
Right.
he just wanted stuff out of there. So I got a nice deal on a lot of things, including that. So hopefully that sells. So
Yeah.
anyway, kind of rambling on, but if we had more room here and I wasn't so filled with all this stuff for reselling, I would convert this room here into a poker room, like a
Oh,
games
wow.
room, and I would have had that poker table. But anyway,
Hmm.
but that's about it for the week, I guess. Sales have been doing really good. Like again, no big home run type stuff like you had, but the booth is doing good. December was a record month. January's turning into a really good month.
Yeah.
And like I said, sales on eBay and Etsy have Etsy was a little slow, but it picked up with a 2-day sale on one day. But eBay's been really good.
Yeah, I expect eBay to be good for maybe another week. And then if my experience from previous years stays up, it will probably really fall down a bit at that point, because it feels like people are spending their money from Christmas until about maybe the 15th or 17th or 20th. And then really there's a dip. I think sometimes, but I'm used to it. I'm ready for it. But
Yeah.
so far I cannot complain. Like I think I had the payments from eBay were higher than any payments in the last year. So it's good, but it's kind of funny. You sell the good stuff, but then the good stuff is gone, right? You always have to get more and more. It's a treadmill. You gotta put up the good stuff for it to sell.
Yeah.
So now it's like the pressure is on when your best stuff sells and you have all the rest of it. But I'm not complaining. You can't complain about great sales. Like
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have a little bit of a different process in my brain. Not, I wouldn't say different, but I would add to that. I have a lot of inventory right now, even after putting more in, like a third booth. So my thoughts are, and I could be wrong, but we are going to enter into a bit of a dip compared to, I mean, it was fourth quarter and then entering into January, so people are spending. So when it slows down, I tend on listing a lot more. Like my focus is to really, so I might not notice a dip so much only because I'm going to have a lot more volume out there. You know what I
Right.
mean? So per item is going to be a little bit slower, but because I have more items, I might see the same type of income coming in. You know what I mean? Sales
I
coming
mean,
in.
yeah, the more stuff you have, the more stuff you sell.
Yeah. But the
And
key is, as you hit the nail right on the head there, it's quality. You have to, your good stuff, right? So I have
quality.
to maintain that quality level in order to get sales, right? So and well, let me just backtrack a little bit. Those sales were smaller numbers as far as the price range, weren't in the 400s like you were saying there, but they were really neat stuff. Like it was advanced Dungeon and Dragon figures from the 80s. You know what I mean? And they were like,
Yeah.
35 to $60 range. A couple of those. So really, really cool stuff. They just don't have that big, high number value, but they sold for the value that they're worth, right?
That's
So,
funny. That's funny. I also sold Dungeons and Dragons figures this week
oh, did you?
from
Nice.
out of the booth. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just love that stuff. It's like, should I keep it? It's one of those things for me. It's like, should I keep it or let it go? But I let it go.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
It's
a box set, vintage Dungeons and Dragons. I think it sold for 130 Canadian, so I was pretty happy with that out of the booth.
Yeah, and I was watching some resellers and they're selling Dungeon and Dragon books. Like
Oh, the
so,
books,
D
yeah,
and D is still hungry. People are hungry for that stuff, right?
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
nice thing to find. Nice bolo.
One of my early finds was a white box Dungeons and Dragons set. One of the first sets they ever came out with. I think 6 or 7 printing, but it was such a small printing. I couldn't believe it when I saw it at the thrift store, and I should have kept it. I think it doubled in value, and I think I sold it for over $400. They go up
Nice.
for 800 to 1,000 now, and I think, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but yes, Dungeons and Dragons,
Well,
that up, yeah.
how did you ship that, Carl?
So
Because
that,
here's our main topic today is
yeah.
shipping. So how do you ship that?
I hope I did well because it was at the beginning,
Oh, okay.
and I think I did silly things when I first started. I remember using garbage bags like they don't give you them anymore, but the grocery bags, like the plastic grocery bags. I
Okay.
used to use that like as my kind of padding material around the box.
Okay.
It, I, 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 I would not recommend that.
No. Well, it
But
was different times back then, right? Like people didn't really have an expectation. They knew they were buying it more of a person who was a collector or someone that had something, right? Like,
yeah, I should have done that. But
oh, that's true.
shipping for me is like an ongoing process of learning. Even just the other week, I was watching the Flipping Sports guy, and he was shipping out sports cards, and he took the envelope, and I do postcards, so I'll ship that out non-tracked letter mail, and I would take the envelopes, and to seal them, I was using just like a glue stick because it doesn't seal very well.
Right.
And so I was watching him, and all he did was he printed out the shipping label and used that to close the
Oh,
or the address label.
sure.
He would like a thing that you can stick peel and stick to your envelope. And he was using that to seal the envelope. I was like, oh my god, that is so much better.
Yeah.
I
So
just never
smart,
thought
right?
of doing
So
it. So yes, always learning,
yeah,
even now.
smart little tip, and yet so simple, but people would overlook that, right?
You don't think of it because it's the backside of the envelope. It feels
Yeah.
wrong. You see the backside of the envelope,
Yeah.
but like they don't care. It's all automatic system anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah, neat little tip there. Yeah, I think shipping. So I try to keep it very professional looking. Like I really try to use blank boxes. I don't like unless it's
right,
something. Well, even I've changed a little bit now. But if it's something really big and bulky and I don't have a box laying around of
right,
my normal supply, I'll look for something different. But now I just go to Business Staples Depot and I pick up a box. Right? It's
yeah,
5 minutes down the road, 5 minutes down the road, I'll go grab a box and I'll use that. But I mean, I'm still Frankenstein boxes. You know what I
I
mean?
did
Like,
that just yesterday. Can't
yeah,
sit. So what people don't know is if you Frankenbox, that means taking two or more boxes to create a larger box or a strangely shaped box. Um, well, we won't try and explain it here, but basically you just got to cut it up to make a box. So, for example, I sold a big President's Choice train set this week, and I didn't have any boxes in stock that had the proper length and width. So basically, I had to take two that had the proper width, but not enough length, and create one big box. That's Frankenboxing. I try to avoid that if I can,
yep.
but for me, at least for boxes, I'll happily use reuse boxes as long as they're still in good condition. Amazon boxes. I won't use like cereal boxes and stuff like that. Shipping boxes what I'll use. I measure the boxes, break down the box, and then I have a list on a piece of paper of what's available. And because I found if I didn't break down the boxes and have them stored, I just never used them because I wouldn't go and look, and they took up a lot of room. What about you? Do you have the pile of boxes, or do you break them down?
I order mine. I used to do Uline. I'm now going to Staples Business Depot.
Staples. Yeah,
Um, but I would have all the I would order them. You can
I
order
order. Yeah,
you can order your sizes. You can order your stone styrofoam peanuts if that's what people use. Some people don't.
right.
Anything tape, everything comes there now. So I'll just order them. What was I going to say? So if I need something to Frankenstein, I'll usually be able to find it through that. Now
Yeah,
I do take odd looking shape boxes and I will keep them and we'll just pile them up and it's usually 10 or less, so I just keep them together and they're
right.
not like huge ones. They're just like maybe long for a game board or there's something for like I don't have a lot of items like that, so I don't need a lot of boxes to order, so
Right.
I'll just keep them, you know what I mean. Sometimes I get really odd shaped books that are really long and thin or something, so I'll keep a couple boxes that I think maybe one of these books, like a book, would fit in properly. Um,
So what type of standard boxes do you normally buy? Because I also buy from Staples.
yeah.
I found that like Uline is great, but their shipping is very expensive, so I've never bought off Uline. But
So you're talking like measurements?
yeah, like for example, like my excuse me, my most common box I use is a 6x4x4. I go through a ton of those.
Yeah.
I also go through a ton of bubble mailers. Actually, bubble mailers are my favorite because they're just so fast. If I can put something in a bubble mailer, it's just like it's 20 seconds to ship stuff out. I highly
Yeah.
recommend using them if you can.
So measurements, I'm going to be a little bit off here because I'll probably use centimeters because I do my measurements in centimeters. Like, yeah. So all my boxes have inches on them, but I don't really pay attention to that anymore unless I'm ordering them.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm more of like inches. So I think there's one that's 18 centimeters by 14 by 14. That's my most common. One of the things I do like is I have these cardboard envelopes,
Yeah.
and what's the measurements there? 27 by 19, 27 by 19 by 1. You know what I mean? So they
Yeah.
fit within that expedited shipping in Canada type. They fit right in there. But I sell a lot of like ephemera stuff, and that is absolutely perfect for ephemera. So I really enjoy that. And then I have one that's a little bit bigger. Say I was going to sell a magazine. Um, I'll use them for that. But they're it's almost like a cardboard box as an envelope, though.
Yeah. I call those stay flats.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, it's just a very basically a cardboard hard, flexible but hard
But hard, yeah.
envelope, and usually it has a piece of tape at the end. You can just pull, and then you can seal them. They're really like if I sell a magazine, I'm almost really happy to use one because they're so nice to use,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everyone who gets them is really happy. Usually, the cost for those are usually about $50 to $1, but I think it's worth it for the magazines I sell up to $20. And for me, we talk about shipping costs. For me, I try to charge shipping around the right price it's going to be, including maybe $1 for packing material.
Yeah, I don't know how much these were. Like I bought them so long ago, but I think there was
Yeah.
200 in a box. Like it was a very big box, and I bought two boxes, two different sizes. Um, but one thing I do that I don't know if a lot of people do is when I package my item, say I'm going to do a magazine, I'll have a magazine plastic magazine sleeve. I don't put in the backboard. The backboards are usually used for when I'm putting it in the booth because it keeps the book nice and strong because I usually have them upright and in a box where people can just flip through. But I will put them in the plastic sleeve. I put my action figures in a smaller plastic sleeve. I really try to present it as a newest possible looking item. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not new. It says pre-owned in the listing. It's just the way they open it. It's presented to them when they buy it.
It feels good to put some pride into your shipping.
Yeah, and I
Um,
use plastic bags and all these things a lot for the booth, for
yeah.
my antique booth with an S now. But I also, because I have them laying around all the time, and I shouldn't say laying around, they're neatly stacked on a shelf that so I can just access whatever size I want. But I utilize them for packaging as well. Peanuts, really, I think you can buy 100 for $30. So it's the sale's already there. It's just a presentation factor. It's not necessary, but I like the way it looks.
Yeah, and for me, I use a lot of craft paper, brown craft paper. So I'll order a roll off Staples, and it lasts pretty well forever. Um,
No, the
and then I
craft paper is to kind of as filler in the box, you mean?
and filler, yeah, just to
Yeah.
stop the object from moving around. It depends. I would use peanuts if I'm doing like a lot of glass and pottery, which nowadays, I'm going to be honest, I'm often double boxing now because I had breakage and I got so frustration. So I'll pack the item, especially the valuable stuff. It has to be over $100,
Yeah.
but I'll put the item box in a box properly, like I would normally ship out, and then I use a larger box, put craft paper around that, and quote unquote double box it. That's pretty rare. That's because I had some items break on shipments, and I was just you know it feels bad when you send out something for $100 and you get nothing because it broke.
Yeah, I've only had one item break on me, and I'm not sure if it broke. I'm going to assume the buyer was correct, or if he just didn't like it and decided to break it and want his money back. But I've only had one issue like that, and I'm going to assume that they broke. But I moved on from it. But I'm just using it as an example. I have not had a broken item, not through shipping, that's for sure.
Well, good.
But yeah, no, I knock on wood. I'm lucky,
Yeah.
but I guess my point is that a lot of people are worried about shipping glass or pottery or things that could break,
Mm.
and I would say don't be. Just be conscientious of how it's going to be handled um, through postage, and it is what it is, and you just have to try to find the best way to through every angle. Sometimes there could be a foot on a figure or something sticking out. Do that first, double wrap that, and then wrap everything else or something like that. But make
Yeah.
sure put it in a big box. Don't put it in a small box.
No, don't.
Where
Yeah, definitely don't put in a small box for glass or pottery.
like don't put it in a box where a piece of it is touching. Like you have to have a barrier of bubbles and
Yeah.
peanuts around the whole thing, and I think
Yeah.
you're pretty much safe.
So, so I think you can drive yourself a little nuts. Do you watch your stuff once you've shipped it out? Like, do you go and track to see if did it arrive yet? Did it arrive yet? Or are you a ship and forget kind of person?
I'm kind of a ship and forget. I'm not saying I've never done that, but I'm pretty much a
Right.
ship and forget. Um, it might sound maybe it sounds a little bit high on myself, but I'm pretty confident in my shipping. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm okay with it. I mean there is a flip side too. You could be spending too much time on shipping, which is a bad thing too, right? Like time is
There's a
money,
lot.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
Frankensteining 10 boxes a day, you're going to be spending your whole day
Oh,
shipping. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you want to make sure you have enough boxes, enough supplies, and you know
And
where
and
you can. because and not only that, because
Yeah.
an inch here and there can mean the difference of another $5 or $2, and if you do that
Right.
10 times a day, you're losing 20-30 bucks. You know what I mean? So there's a
I
lot more
think
to shipping.
that's a good point there, is that, one thing with shipping, so shipping is always one of the biggest questions I ever get from people wanting to do eBay. In fact, just last week, one of my friends on Facebook contacted me and asked me for a whole bunch of advice on shipping because it's so scary. And I think, the one thing to remember in the United States and Canada is it's your most of what you're paying for is going to be weight. However, there is something called dimensional weight equivalent as well, which is kind of complicated to go into here, but basically it's like dimensional weight equivalent is if you take the size of the box, and if it goes over a certain amount, the weight it actually weighs is irrelevant. There's an equivalent weight. You keep that in mind. What I do personally is on eBay is I'll have shipping policies for different weights, including, of course, the packaging weight, and then I can quickly select which one I estimate this item is going to be for when I ship out. I don't pack it, pre-pack it, or any of that stuff. I just use these policies, and I find by using shipping policies under business policies, it makes it really easy that if prices go up, you can quickly adjust all your listings. But if you're a brand new seller, I suggest actually using calculated shipping to start, just to give yourself a little buffer for the surprise. Because if you're in Canada, like we are, this is not for the Americans, but if you're in Canada, you could ship something to Toronto for $10, and then the same item to Newfoundland could be $25.
Yeah.
And calculated shipping will stop you. Will be a bit of insurance against that.
Well, I would, and it's there's no right or wrong way, but I would have a different plan.
Right.
As a newbie, I would make sure everything I sell is within the size of I wouldn't go bigger than a football for sure. I would probably keep it even smaller, but maybe 2 coffee cups. And I would ship everything in Canada at $15, and I would ship everything in the States. I would list it for a flat rate of $10, and I would do flat rate shipping. And then I would gradually, slowly kind of learn that, because you're 100% right. And be prepared, especially if you're new, be prepared to lose a couple dollars. Don't, there's a growing trend. There's a growing pain involved here, right?
There is. Right.
So don't worry. You know what? If you have a $15 flat rate shipping and you send it to Newfoundland, it costs you $25, still be happy you got a sale, because that is in eBay's system now. Like you've graduated, you've done something good. This is a new person. So you're going to sell something, and it's only going to charge you $12. You know what I mean? So, or you'll sell something to the US, might cost you $8, but you've charged 10. So I would keep that flat rate, slowly develop it. Like cameras are good, video games, you're going to sell those items, but you're not going to deal with the big headache of a big, VCR. You know what I mean? Something like that.
I agree with that. When you start, you should definitely be exactly that football size object, things that are not super heavy.
Heavy's a big deal too, for sure. Not a football made of lead.
You're
in trouble.
But, just to get your feel for it. But then don't fall into the fear of not shipping big things after you have experience.
Right.
I'm a bit of a hypocrite, because I do kind of like, oh no, that big thing sold, and now I had to ship it. But the money is often so good that even though it takes more time to ship it, it's still worth it. But on the other hand,
and can I just add one more thing to that, Carl? So, and I've done this before. I don't really do it so much now, but I probably still do. Okay, you're in, and you got to be careful, because you want to make sure you change it back. But if you're into a shipping label and you're about to put in the dimensions, expand the dimensions and see what it would cost to go to that place. You know what I mean? So if you want to start selling books are heavy. Books can be big. So books are going to be a different thing than selling a camera. You know what I mean? Just because they weigh more, because I'm talking a big, thick book, big Bible or something. put in the dimensions that you roughly think that it would be. You know what I mean? Weight or whatever. And then it's going to calculate it for you. It's going to show you the different costs. And eventually you start recognizing, you don't have to do that every time, but there are growing pains for a beginner. And that was one thing I would recommend, is just to kind of see, like, if this item is 0.2 kilograms, what would it be if it was a full, like 1 kilogram? You know what I mean? So just type in that weight and see, you're going to see the differences, and you're going to start seeing most things are not going to cost more than $25 to ship. Most things.
Is generally the most.
Yeah.
There is a funny thing though.
But I have shipped things where it was $80, you know, but I knew that.
Yeah.
So
there is weird kind of like you reach these thresholds, and it's different for Canada and the United States.
100%.
So within Canada, my joke is like, I can ship a Smurf or a board game for the same cost using Canada Post. It's just so insane here that the lowest rate for shipping is really expensive.
Yeah.
But thankfully, in the last, I would say 6 months to a year, eBay has come out with a, I think it's called Expedited Light.
Expedited Light. Yep.
And that goes up to 200 grams.
Yep.
And you can ship things often for $10, and that's been a lifesaver because
there are dimensions involved in that too.
There is dimensions. Yeah, I learned that one.
Yeah.
There is dimensions. So you can't like ship a big plushie, because it will probably break the dimensions of that, even if it's super light. But there is that aspect as well. But for United States, what I find is if it's under 450 grams, it's a lot cheaper. And when you go above that, there's a big jump. But like I said, you just kind of get that experience over a while. I make myself charts. What I try not to do is, if I'm making a package and it's like a few grams here or there, like, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I know some people will unpack it. I never really found it was worth that unless it reaches that threshold. I guess the other important question I should ask for you, at least, is who do you use to ship? Because that can really depend on where you are.
So right now, like Canada Post wise, I use Canada Post. As far as my labels are concerned, I know it's taboo, but I still go through eBay. I think it's efficient. I think they do a lot of good things. The Expedited Light is good. Yeah. And I don't find it too bad. Like, I mean, when I do Etsy, the only thing they give me when I ship in Canada is expedited parcel. They don't give me that regular parcel shipping cost.
The shipping has improved a lot on eBay. So people who don't know, eBay labels means you're buying the label off eBay, and now they give you level 4 discount with Canada Post.
Yeah,
which is really good, because before you would have to, I won't go into it, but you have to sign up with a different company to get this discount. And so now eBay is giving us access to that. And there really isn't a lot of reasons, I think, not to use Canada Post. The only exception is, example for me, I'm in Ottawa, and I don't use Canada Post at all. I use, except for that Expedited Light one. Yeah. I use a reshipper, and what they do is they take your package and they'll take it across the border, and they'll use USPS, and that can save you a ton of money. Just Google reshippers, but Chit Chats is one, Stallion Express is another one. If you have access to those companies, I'd highly suggest looking into it, because the savings can be significant.
Yeah, and I don't have that option here.
No.
Not saying I would use it if it was, but I'd be tempted to look into it and most likely use it. I mean, if you're using it, there's got to be a lot of benefits to it. So, but I'm really happy with. The only thing I would say right now is I'm looking to expand into FedEx, because some of the bigger parcels are much cheaper on FedEx. Yeah. Again, I'm out in the boonies compared to a big city. I mean, not really boonies. Like, you know, there's a lot of. It's a bigger, smaller town, I guess you'd say, but I don't want to drive an hour to Hamilton to do things. But we do have FedEx here, I guess, at the Staples Business Depot. And when I do bigger items, the next time I do a big item, I'm going to try to use FedEx and see how smoothly that runs. But right now I've just been doing everything through Canada Post. And
So
I do everything flat rate. I don't want to get into the calculated shipping. To me, it's just it's a time suck in my mind, because either you're going to put in the wrong measurements of something, especially if
right,
you're new, or you have to pre-box everything to get the correct, absolute correct measurements, because I already know most of the stuff I'm going to sell, that I would already have an idea what they're going to weigh and what box they're going into. I already know what it's going to cost. You know what I mean? So I just put in a flat rate. It just, it's either 10 or $15. The odd time I'll throw in 20. And if, like, for instance, I got a really good deal on a bunch of lacrosse sticks. I knew that a lacrosse stick was going to cost me $60 to $80 to ship. It ended up costing me $80. That's because I used Canada Post and I put it in a bit bigger box than I wanted to, but I didn't want to go buy one. I just, time is money. But I only charged $45 for that. Now I charged the stick for $250.
right. So
So,
you made it up on the other end,
so I made it up there,
right?
right? I knew I was going to have to eat $20, $30.
So do you ever go to the customer and say, "Well, I charged you 40, but it cost me 80 to ship. Will you give me
No,
the other 40?"
no.
Yeah.
But
So
I, but I don't. On the other hand, if I charge 10 and it costs me 7, I'm not giving them the $3 either, right?
exactly. Neither
Yeah,
do I.
yeah,
That's the question I get sometimes from people.
yeah,
If you undercharged, well, that's unfortunate, but I would just eat it. If I
yeah,
overcharge, the only time I'll ever refund is if they're buying more than one item and I'm combining shipping into one box.
yeah,
Then I'll do that. But yeah, no, don't worry about it. They knew what they were paying when they bought it.
yep,
I think the other thing too is you're going to get people sending you emails on occasion complaining about the cost of shipping. I I just say, well, that's the price I need to pay or whatever, or that's my cost, and leave it at that. Because you're going to have people who just don't know how much shipping costs, especially within Canada, because it does surprise people how expensive it can be sometimes.
And a lot of people will disagree with this, but I don't care. This is my strategy, and I'll stick
Yeah.
with it until my mind has changed somewhere down the road. But I again, it's not what you sell it for; it's what you pay for the item. That's my theory. So I usually have very little into these items. So let's say I sold something for $80, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to cost me probably $15 or $16 to ship it. But I know from watching YouTubers, Shed Flips, Craigslist Hunter, I'll throw those names out there because they really tell the story very well, especially Shed Flips now. Craigslist Hunter's kind of pivoted. He does something a little bit different style, but they will talk about shipping and their costs and all this kind of stuff quite often. So I have an idea of what things are costing them. So in order to compete with the Americans,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it at $10. Even though I know it's probably going to cost me 15, I'll eat that $5 just because I'm going to get the sale at the end of the day. Some people might reduce the cost of the item and keep the shipping expensive. I think that's wrong because I think people do look at shipping, right? So if you're competitive
Right.
and in line with what that item should sell for, but your shipping is now just as competitive, maybe they go to your top rated seller status or they see the feedback or something else. But I will not, because I've gotten those messages before, Carl, like, why is your shipping so expensive? And sometimes it was. Sometimes I was like, screw this. I don't want to get losing shipping. This is my old days. I'm
Yeah.
charging everybody $20. Well, that ain't gonna help you. You know what I
No.
mean?
I
If
try
it's
to
$10 to ship, you
Yeah.
better charge $10 to ship, right? So
for me, I try to make it as close as I can to the actual cost.
yeah.
I think there's a psychological aspect as well. Like, do you ever do free shipping on your items?
Uh I don't believe I have. I've listed stuff at free shipping
Right.
when I first started with Etsy because they recommended it, but I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
shipped anything free. I just found it
So
was like people are used to paying for shipping. Like that's just part of
on eBay, I agree.
yeah.
I think there's a psychological thing on eBay where people are often buying used items, sometimes new, but often used. There's a psychological aspect where people expect the shipping to be separate, and they separate that cost in their head from the price. as opposed to Amazon, where everyone wants that free shipping. And of course, there's no such thing as
It's not free.
free shipping.
Yeah.
So if I have heard on YouTube in the past where people said, "Oh, they've tried free shipping," but almost everyone I know has flipped off of free shipping on eBay to just charging for it.
Yeah. So eBay to me, and Etsy too, but eBay is my primary.
Yeah.
So when you look at Amazon, you're buying something new. You're buying something where thousands of items of the same item is there.
Yeah.
When you're on eBay, you're most likely buying something that's a one-off. You might have 5 or 6 people listing the same thing, but they're all charging shipping, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, very little free shipping. Yeah.
if anyone is giving you free shipping, it's because they hidden the shipping cost into the item. So
Yeah.
a $50 item, they're charging $60. I'm
Yeah.
charging 50. So when people first look at their item, they're going to go to the item that says $50.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then their next concept is, it's they're already on my site. They're already into the item, and it's $10 to ship that. That's fine. That's
People
what
don't
I
want to
think.
feel ripped off, you know. I think that's why you should try and have the cost of shipping about right. You don't want to like charge $30 for shipping when it's really 15,
Yeah.
because then people feel like you're getting one over on them on the shipping. But honestly, like for me, I rarely get complaints about shipping costs.
It's like
It's in the right range.
it's like it could be brick and mortar stores could run the same way too. We have people coming all the way from north of Kitchener,
Yeah.
all the way down to our little store. Well, it's kind of a big store actually, but I mean it's a little town, to buy stuff because of our prices.
Yeah.
They just wasted 2 hours driving an hour and a half here, an hour and a half back,
It doesn't count.
plus the gas
It doesn't
because
count.
our items are cheaper.
I know it's silly, eh?
But it's like you said, it's in the mind, right?
It's in the mind. Yeah.
So
You separate the two costs for some reason. In your
yeah,
head.
so instead of paying $40 for an oil lamp, they bought it for 25 or 30, but they spent $100 in gas. And
I know.
So,
I know. It's funny, isn't it?
So-
We all fall into that trap on occasion.
100%. Yeah.
So what about handling time? Do you do same day shipping?
I do 2 days, and
2
but
days.
I usually ship it out the same day or the next day.
Yeah.
But I do give myself that buffer because if I don't have the right box or I have to go somewhere, like I'm always, every now and then there's that extra day. Yeah.
But when you're talking about the handling time and you give yourself 2 days, I do the same thing. 2 days, because you want to be able to give yourself time to deal with those pain in the butt items.
Yeah.
I often wonder though, are we losing out on sales because we have 2 days? Like, it's so hard to tell because it's an unknown. But for me, for my life and going out, I can't do more than 2 days because I'd be stressing out about having to pack stuff all the time. If I had like such volume that I had to pack every day, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to get enough packing done in one day, then maybe I'd change things up if I had to go every day. But for my store, 2 days handling time is good as well. And it gives us, like, if you sell something on a Friday and it's the weekend, you have, I think, until Tuesday or something. So, usually it's good.
Yeah. I don't think it affects sales at all. I think 2 days is kind of your standard, but all my feedback is like shipped very quickly, nicely packed. You know what I mean? I really put emphasis on that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
what do they say? Under promise, over deliver.
Most of my ship, like sometimes I'll get the sale and I'll be in here doing stuff and I'll grab it, ship it. Steph's going to the store, she's gone. So within half an hour to an hour from the time it was sold, it's already in the post office. That happens a lot.
Like you'll see something that hits like the equivalent of all green lights for shipping, and you'll ship it out. And it's like somewhere far away, like in the day. You're like, how on earth did it get there? It's funny, isn't it?
I've had comments like that as well. So like extremely fast shipping or next day or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it went to Windsor and it was just the timing and everything. It was very quick.
I just want to ask another question for that.
Yeah.
So for a new person, where would you recommend that they ship to? Which countries would you ship to as a new?
Canada and the U.S. Definitely the U.S. because that's where most of your buyings come from, and we live in Canada.
Yeah.
We'll live in Canada. I wouldn't ship outside of that.
100%, yeah.
Now, I actually made a mistake, and I won't do this again. But I shipped to Korea once, and I shipped to Japan. There was no problems, but Australia is so expensive.
I've shipped to Australia twice, not a problem, and I warned them like they are aware that it's going to be crazy expensive.
Yeah, I don't. I just take them off my list now.
Yeah,
I don't
me too.
even. So the only places I'll ship to now is France, Germany, and England, Canada, and U.S. Those are the only countries. And the only reason is because I've had people from France and Germany kind of upset that I wouldn't ship to them, and there's no reason I wouldn't. So I changed the listing, and now I just add it. A guy from Germany, he wanted these motorcycle brochures, and I won't ship everything to those countries. It's got to be very small.
It has to be small, yeah.
But they were just brochures. They're vintage. They're from the 70s. They're on motorbikes, and he wanted them. And he's like, I really wish you would ship them to Germany. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a chance. He bought 3 of them. So anyways, and he was happy, 5-star review. And I thought, you know what? I'll start England. I sold a Royal Dalton. I bumped the price up, charged them $5 extra on top of the price because I didn't know what was going to happen here. And I made an extra $5, 5-star review. She was so happy with it. So yeah, I will start shipping to those 3 countries outside of Canada and the U.S.
Outside of Canada. And like, I recommend the same thing. If you were a new seller in Canada or United States, Canada and U.S. definitely have both. In fact, for me, I almost prefer shipping to the United States because it's cheaper. And I don't have to do dimensions. I just do weight. If it's under 450 grams, I can just we'll put it on a scale. I don't even have to measure it. The lightest stuff, I just added UK because I wanted to, start doing that. But as a Canadian, like the American market is 90 times the size of Canada, 9 times the size of Canada. So you definitely want to have that in your wheelhouse. Make sure you have tracking to UK or to Europe, because sometimes it can take a long time for stuff to get out there. That has caused me issues, so I won't ship anything without tracking.
I ship everything with tracking. Yeah. Everything. Doesn't matter where it's going. It'll get tracking. All right, buddy. I think that's a long-winded way of saying we're come to the conclusion of a show.
Hey, well, thank you everyone for listening. If people have questions about shipping, please put them on the YouTube channel or let us know, because sometimes we forget how much we've learned over the years.
Or tell us quickly, chat, type in a story, tell experience. Maybe we could read those sometimes. We can read people's comments on another show.
Fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun too.
All right, Carl. Thanks again, buddy. Always fun.
Hey, thank you.
And we'll be back next Friday. Reseller Evolution.
Reseller Evolution. Bye, everyone.
All right. Have a good one.